Have you ever just stopped and wondered how life builds itself? I mean, how does a tiny little seed become this enormous tree? Or how do we go from just a single cell to, well, a person? The secret, it turns out, is specialization. And today, we're going to dive into the fundamental building blocks that make all of that possible. We're talking about tissues. So let's start with a cool question. What could a giant redwood tree possibly have in common with a cheetah sprinting across the savanna? I mean, on the surface, they couldn't be more different, right? But deep down biologically, they've both figured out how to solve the exact same problems. And they do it using the same core strategy, cellular teamwork. And that right there brings us to the main idea for today. A tissue, it's really just a group of similar cells that have all banded together to do one specific job and do it really, really well. The best way to think about them is as these little teams of workers. See, life figured out a long time ago that it's way more efficient to have specialized teams for things like construction or support or communication, instead of making every single cell try to do everything at once. It's just smart. Okay, so let's think about the first big challenge for any complex organism. It's pretty simple, actually. How do you get bigger, right? You can't just have all your cells dividing all over the place willy-nilly. That would be chaos. No, you need a dedicated team just for expansion. You need a growth engine. In plants, these growth engines have a specific name, meristematic tissues. And check this out. They're found right at the very tips of the roots and the stems. Think of these spots as zones of non-stop construction. They are literally factories, just churning out new cells 24/7 to push the plant up towards the sun and down deep into the soil. And these little factory cells, they are perfectly built for the job. They're small, they're kind of cubical, they've got thin walls and these big prominent nuclei. Basically, they've stripped away everything non-essential, all for one purpose, dividing as fast as possible. They are lean, mean dividing machines, and they create all the raw material for the entire plant to be built from. All right, so we're growing, we're adding new cells, we're getting bigger, awesome. But all that new growth is pretty soft and floppy, isn't it? So what stops a plant, or for that matter, an animal, from just collapsing into a formless puddle on the ground? And that, my friends, leads us to the second huge challenge. Yep, the challenge of just staying upright. If you're going to defy gravity, you need some kind of internal scaffolding. You need whole teams of cells that are dedicated to one thing, providing strength, rigidity, and support. And this is where it gets really cool, because we can see how plants and animals solve this exact same problem in totally different ways. It really gets to the heart of their different lifestyles. So over here on the left, you see plants use something called sclerenchyma tissue. These are cells with these incredibly thick, hard walls. Basically, they form a rigid skeleton, think wood. Then on the right, you've got animals. We use bone, which is a living tissue that creates a hard but way more flexible internal framework. So here's the key difference in strategy. Plants, they don't move, right? They're stationary. So they can get away with using these non-living, super rigid cell walls for support. It just locks them into a fixed structure. But animals, we need to move. So we use living, dynamic tissues like cartilage and bone. That's what allows for growth, for repair, and of course for mobility. It's the same problem, but two totally brilliant and different solutions, each one perfectly adapted to its way of life. And this little chart here for plants really puts it all together nicely. You can see those meristematic tissues we talked about, the growth engines, and then the permanent tissues that provide supports, like sclerenchyma. It's all organized to build that stable, stationary structure we just discussed. Okay, great. So now we're big, we're standing tall, we've got structure, but that structure is pretty useless if we can't get fuel and water to every single part of it, right? I mean, how does water from the ground get all the way up to the very top leaf of a giant tree? And how does the sugar that's made in the leaves get all the way down to the roots? We've got a logistics problem. And that is challenge number 3, internal transport. Every single complex organism needs a kind of internal plumbing and logistics system to move all that water, all those nutrients, and all that fuel around. Now, in plants, this system is made up of what we call vascular tissues. You can see them here, organized into these really neat little bundles. This isn't just a bunch of random pipes thrown together. Oh no, it's a highly organized biological highway system, and it runs through every single part of the plant. And this highway system basically has 2 main roads. First, you've got the xylem. Think of this as the one-way express lane, just for moving water and minerals up from the roots. It's like a continuous pipeline. Then you have the phloem. This is more like a 2-way street.
It transports the sugary food that's made in the leaves to wherever it's needed. It can go up, it can go down, wherever the plant needs that energy.
So what about animals? How do we solve this transport problem? Well, we don't have a bunch of fixed pipes inside of us. Instead, we evolved a completely mobile solution, this amazing fluid connective tissue that we all call blood. It's literally like a river flowing through your entire body, carrying everything to where it needs to go. And floating around in that river is another whole set of specialized teams. You've got your red blood cells. Think of them as the oxygen delivery trucks. Then you've got your white blood cells. That's your mobile security force, fighting off any invaders. And you have platelets. They're the emergency repair crew, rushing in to plug any leaks. I mean, what an incredibly dynamic and efficient system. Okay, so up to this point, plants and animals have been solving pretty similar problems, just in different ways. But our final challenge, this is where animals really, really go their own way. We're talking about the ability to move quickly and react to the world around us. And to do that, you need two more highly specialized types of tissue. First up, you've got the action team, muscle tissue. Now, the unique superpower of muscle cells is their ability to contract, to physically get shorter. And when you bundle millions of these cells together and hook them up to a skeleton, bam, you get movement. This is the engine that powers absolutely everything, from a simple smile to an all-out sprint. And we actually have three different kinds of muscle. First, there's striated muscle, also called skeletal muscle. This is the stuff you control on purpose, moving your arms, your legs, making a face. Then you've got unstriated or smooth muscle. This works automatically, behind the scenes, managing things like your digestion. And finally, there's cardiac muscle. This one is super special. It's only found in the heart, and it just works tirelessly on its own your entire life. But think about it. All that muscle would be totally useless without a command and control system, right? And that's the job of nervous tissue. It's made up of these incredible cells called neurons. And you can see here, these cells are basically the body's electrical wiring. They transmit these lightning-fast signals that allow the brain to understand the world, to make decisions, and then to tell all those muscles what to do. So this chart here kind of shows the final animal team roster. We've got the connective tissue for support, the muscular tissue for movement, and that nervous tissue for control. And when you add in epithelial tissue, which is what forms all our protective coverings and linings, those four main types together build the entire animal body. That's the whole shebang. So, after all of that, what's the bottom line? What are the big ideas to take away? Well, first, that life builds itself using these specialized teams of workers called tissues. Second, these tissues are just brilliant solutions to the big, universal problems that all complex life has to solve: growing, supporting itself, moving things around. And third, and this is the really cool part, while the problems are the same, the solutions that plants and animals came up with are often completely different, but they're both equally effective. And that brings us to one last thought to leave you with. We've been talking about all these individual specialist teams, right? The workers. But what happens when the plumbing team and the support team and the command and control team all come together in one location to do an even bigger job? Well, that's when you get an organ, like a heart or a leaf. And that, well, that's the next level of this incredible story.